Dawn breaks slowly over a river valley in eastern China. Mist clings to the reeds and coils around low hills like a living thing. Somewhere beyond the fog, armor shifts softly against cloth. Leather straps tighten, and men breathe through clenched teeth. No drums sound, no horns call the advance, only the steady murmur of water sliding past stone. The silence is deliberate. It is part of the plan. Long before the clash of empires, before disciplined legions and thunderous artillery, Sun Tzu understood a truth that most commanders never grasped. War is decided long before the battlefield reveals itself. It is decided in preparation, in perception, and in the ability to shape an enemy's understanding of reality. To Sun Tzu, the moment swords meet is not the beginning of war, it is its final test. China, during the late spring and autumn period, is a land in constant fracture. Power shifts like sand beneath the feet of rulers. Alliances last only as long as fear demands. States rise by conquest and fall by exhaustion. Every campaign carries the risk of annihilation, not just for armies, but for entire cultures. In this world, war is not an exception. It is a condition of existence. Sun Tzu emerges not as a warrior shouting orders from horseback, but as an observer. He watches how men march when they believe themselves superior. He listens to how officers speak when they assume victory is inevitable. He studies supply carts, river crossings, and the morale of farmers pressed into service. He understands that battles are fought by human beings, tired, anxious, hungry, and uncertain, not by abstract numbers. The state of Wu which he serves is smaller than its rival, Chu. On every ledger, Chu appears unstoppable. Its army is vast, its generals experienced, its confidence unshaken by years of dominance. Chu expects submission, not resistance. That expectation becomes its greatest weakness. Sun Tzu does not challenge Chu head-on. He begins by shaping the conditions of conflict. He advises patience when others demand speed. He counsels restraint when pride calls for display. To him, a premature victory parade is more dangerous than a delayed strike. He studies the land between Wu and Chu as if reading a map written in flesh and bone. Rivers that flood unpredictably, marshes that swallow heavy infantry, narrow passes where large formations lose cohesion. Every feature becomes a potential advantage or a hidden grave. Terrain is not neutral. It chooses sides. As Wu's forces move, they do so with discipline that borders on invisibility. Camps are built and dismantled quickly. Fires are controlled. Scouts move silently through forests and along ridgelines. Information flows upward with clarity, while outward signs remain minimal. The enemy sees less than it expects and imagines more than exists. Sun Tzu understands fear, not the fear of death alone, but the fear of uncertainty. He knows that an army unsure of what lies ahead begins to exhaust itself before the battle even begins, so he feeds that uncertainty carefully. False movements suggest retreats, empty camps hint at ambush, fires burn where no soldiers remain. Silence replaces noise, and silence unnerves even veteran troops. Chu's commanders grow cautious, their lines slow, supply wagons stretch farther behind the main force, orders take longer to reach the front, soldiers whisper questions no officer can fully answer. The weight of anticipation presses harder than any enemy blade. When Sun Tzu finally allows contact, it is not a single overwhelming strike. It is a series of controlled pressures, small engagements, feints and withdrawals, attacks timed to weather and terrain. Rain turns the ground slick, mud clings to heavy armor. Wu's lighter forces adapt quickly, Chu's formations struggle to maintain order. Momentum shifts quietly, almost invisibly. What began as confidence becomes irritation. Irritation becomes doubt. Doubt becomes hesitation, and hesitation in war is lethal. The decisive engagement does not arrive with a dramatic signal. It unfolds as Chu's forces attempt to reposition, only to find themselves compressed into narrow ground. Wu's army advances with precision. Units strike where resistance is weakest, not where honor would traditionally demand. Commanders are isolated, messengers are intercepted, signals fail. Chaos spreads not because Wu is stronger, but because Chu no longer understands the battlefield. Soldiers fight bravely, but bravery without direction fractures into desperation. Lines collapse inward, retreats turn into flight. Sun Tzu does not pursue recklessly. He knows when victory has already been secured. He limits slaughter. He preserves his army's cohesion. To destroy an enemy completely, he teaches, is often unnecessary and dangerous. A broken foe today may become a desperate one tomorrow. As the fighting ends, the field tells a quiet story. Abandoned banners lie in trampled grass. Broken weapons rust beside shallow pools of rainwater. Survivors move among the wounded in stunned silence. The land bears scars, but not the devastation of a prolonged war. Sun Tzu walks the aftermath without triumph. He measures success not by enemy dead, but by what his own state has preserved, its soldiers, its resources, its future. To him, the greatest victory is one that leaves strength intact. From this philosophy emerges the art of war, not a manual of bloodshed, but a study of control. It teaches that deception is not dishonor, but protection, that knowing the enemy begins with knowing oneself, that leadership is not noise, but clarity, and that the best commander wins without forcing fate to roll its cruelest dice. These ideas endure because they reflect human nature, not a single era. Wherever conflict exists, on battlefields, in politics, in struggles for power, Sun Tzu's principles reappear. The terrain may change, the weapons may evolve, but fear, ambition, and misjudgment remain constant. In the quiet moments after victory, when the dead are counted and the living return home, Sun Tzu's lesson lingers. War is not about proving strength. It is about understanding limits. It is about shaping outcomes before violence becomes inevitable. And in that mist-covered valley, as the river continues its indifferent flow, the truth becomes clear. The sharpest weapon is not forged of metal, but of foresight.